Hi, friends, it is I, Alphinius Goo, here with Charles, with Training with Charles. Say hello, Charles.
That would be me.
Yeah, that guy. Yes, him. And today, we are training for...
The Ghost Stone.
Yes, a Guys and Gags adventure.
A Guys and Gags adventure. So you have a chance to do a little bit of history with your adventure.
The beginnings of Guys and Gags were the Ghost Stone, which
Right.
I'm still very, very excited about because it's a good little tale.
Yes.
Isn't it? And a horror tale, really.
Yes, very much so. And one that you need to keep a fairly tight rein on where your party goes.
Yes, because it's a little sandboxy, right?
So it's a little sandboxy.
And so when you create sandboxiness, you create more variability. And when you create more variability, obviously more time.
Right.
But it's a great tale.
4-hour session. Keep that in mind. You're dealing with a sandbox adventure where they're basically recruited, and we'll talk about that here in just a second, but where they're recruited, then sent off to go do their thing, but they're not given a lot of parameters other than don't go near the mansion. And that's something you should really emphasize. I'll mention more about that later. But they are told, go for it. And so therefore, as the game master, you might need to kind of shuffle them in the right direction.
Yes, because the tale begins in Ethel, at the inn, in the tavern, where Rolf Zandvich, roll for sandwich.
Roll for sandwich.
Yeah, Rolf Zandvich will introduce the party to Dan the Didactic, yes? Right. And Dan the Didactic, what will Dan the Didactic tell them, Charles?
Dan the Didactic will tell them that he's been doing...
Oh, that's Professor Dungeon Master.
Professor Dungeon Master.
Yes, Dan the Didactic. Anyway, keep going.
Basically, Dan the Didactic will tell the group... Now, let me back up just a shade.
Yes, please.
The group will be in the inn, and this is how it will start. The bartender, Rolf Zandvich, will come up and tell them, or ask them if they are adventurers, if they are indeed adventurers, which they will identify themselves as, unless you've got a group that is really not.
We're not adventurers.
We're not adventurers.
We're actually cleaning people.
That's right.
We're here to take care of the inn.
Once they identify themselves as adventurers, they will be escorted to meet Dan the Didactic, who is going to give them a little background that he's been doing research. Something big is coming. He doesn't know exactly what it is, but something big is coming. And he's doing all of his research, and he needs to know what's in the Book of Dread.
Correct.
The Book of Dread holds the key for him to prophesize what's going to happen.
Yes, because something bad is coming.
Something bad's coming. He knows that, but we don't know exactly what it is.
Well, what's the problem with the Book of Dread?
The Book of Dread was written by Ardrana the Spirit.
But it wasn't technically written by Ardrana the Spirit. It was written by Ardrana when she was alive.
Well, when she was alive, that's true.
Yeah.
She wrote the book in a 3-day period while she was possessed.
Yes.
And lots of things happened. She ended up trapped. And
she went insane, hung herself in the square, and then her spirit was pulled
into the egg-shaped ghost stone.
Yes.
Now, Dan the Didactic will hire the party, and he'll give you some background. He will then send the party off to find the ghost stone, which is your main goal. And once you find the ghost stone, you are provided with a spell, a binding spell, to draw Ardrana the Spirit from the ghost stone and inquire of her how to get into the Book of Dread.
Correct.
For a convention, I would say that you've got to do this fairly quickly. You can have some role playing with Zandvich and Didactic, but in general, you're going to probably want to prompt them to get right onto it. This is a classic. They're in an inn. They get approached by the person in the
tavern
inn,
keeper. Yes.
The tavern keeper. They go meet Dan. They get recruited. Boom, they're on the way. The big thing they're told is that they're going to Crovenloft. They're trying to find the egg-shaped ghost stone to where they can draw out Ardrana, get the information they need from her, and then get back to Dan the Didactic to provide him the information. That's the ultimate thing. That's the nutshell of what you need. In a nutshell, what you need to do. However, Crovenloft Estate has had all sorts of things go wrong. 3 of the daughters have been turned into vampires. 2 of them have been driven off.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. One of them is still in residence at the manor and can move freely about the manor and the estate. The party is given a 4-hour non-detection spell.
Correct.
4 hours. Convenient. But they are warned, don't go near the mansion. Stay as far away from the mansion as you can.
So there is the player's map.
Yes.
So they have the player's map that you'll be able to refer to with them.
Right.
Right.
And there is something that if you haven't played Gooey Cube in the past, they encourage you to use the Fog of War, which is covering this up with black or gray sticky tabs. And as they move into a certain area, peel back the sticky tabs.
So this basically shows the entirety of the estate. These two maps together. Okay?
Yeah, it's not a big secret.
And then this map, of course, these maps are your maps, which
Game Masters
give you all the information that you need to run the estate. But this line is very important, yes?
Yes.
And then this line is very important.
If you notice, on the Game Masters map, there is a yellow dash line, and then where's the line? Oh, the red dash line on the other map. Those are basically borders where if the party crosses them, they will become noticed or have a higher chance of being noticed by Stratanava, who is the vampire who is still in residence at Crovenloft. If you look at the statistics, if you look at the adventure, once Stratanava becomes aware of the party, they're dead.
It's over.
It's over. Plain and simple. And there's no secret in here. They say it several times in there, so as you're reading it, you'll become familiar with it. She's a full. Oh no, she's a full-blooded
vampire. Well, not blooded, but you know what I mean. Yes, she's a full take-your-blood vampire. But anyway, Charles, here's the one thing. Dan will say the protection spell will work better the further you are away from the estate. And I don't believe that the ghost stone is all the way near the manor. I believe it's somewhere else, more in the gardens.
Right. And so the opportunity to stay away from the mansion is there. There's no big secret there. The party will be encouraged by you, the Game Master, as Dan, to stay away from the mansion. Try your best not to make that sound like bait. Because if you make it sound like bait and they decide, let's go check out the mansion, they're going to die. Because this is a very, very powerful vampire. Once they get in there, they will have the opportunity. First of all, they're going to go to the gate.
The gates, the gate is first.
Crovenloft gate. Then once they get in there, whether they pick the lock or whether they go over the wall, whatever, they will encounter walkers.
Yes, there are walkers. Yes,
there are walkers.
There are lots of things that they could encounter. Right, the pond lurker is one of them. I got a picture of that. There's locations, right?
Yes, there's the font of blood. Mm-hmm. There's the pond lurker, which is a wonderful combat. There's the bats.
I've got to find them there.
There's the pond lurker.
Yes,
there he is. This he looks a lot like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Intentionally.
Yes,
we wanted to nod a little bit to some of these old things that have been around. Yes.
The pond lurker is probably the only one who's actually assigned to a location. Everything else is pretty much spread out and can be encountered wherever. The bats, stuff like that, they can be encountered wherever.
Just because there is a number on here does not mean it needs to be the number for where they encounter what you're trying to get them to encounter.
You don't have to do it in order.
Absolutely. And you can flop them.
Right.
You can move numbers around. So here's the deal. If the fact of the matter is we have two significant climactic events that Charles is going to talk about, the semi-climax and then the climax, just put them where they need to be to make sure that you're within the time frame.
The pond lurker is the only one that is specifically tied to a pond. And again, great straightforward combat. A lot of fun.
Yes.
So use that one as they get there. My thoughts on the pond lurker was there's this algae covered pond. The
stinky
and all. It's kind of quiet, kind of mystical and all that. And as somebody goes up and looks over the pond, I picture the pond lurker coming out, grabbing him, pulling him in, and then having that part of the combat in the pond itself.
Yes, alligator.
Yes,
crocodile kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yes, very good.
Yeah, grab them and pull them in and go from there. Great chance to kind of not split up the party, but break them up a little bit.
And there's a lot of creepy stuff going on, which really allows you to set the stage, right?
Right.
As we talked about the font of blood, and then there's this damn thing.
which is, what do they title him? The Bloody Blob,
Yeah,
or the...
It's a goo.
Yeah, it's a goo. It's a goo. It's a bloody blob, but basically it's made up of blood and scabs and all sorts of bones and stuff like that. So
yes.
a lot of good combat. So ultimately their goal is to find the ghost stone, draw out the ghost, Adrana, and get the information and be on their way. If only it was that simple. Now, they're going to hear some bellowing. It's going to be mentioned a couple times in here. They're going to hear some bellowing from a monster. And this monster is called Stitchy the Construct. Use him as a tool. Yes, he's a great, let me go ahead and put him over here.
Yes.
He's a great monster. Very powerful monster. Use him to really mess with the party. He will bellow. You'll find his leavings.
Yes.
Ultimately, when they find Stitchy, it's going to be
Itchy, by the way. There's an apostrophe in there.
Yes, there is. I was wondering about that. Thank you. When they find Itchy, it's going to be a big combat.
Yes.
And but it's a good, fun, straightforward, for lack of a better phrase, hack and slash combat.
He is the semi-climax.
So don't use him too early. And you're warned about that in the adventure as you read it. Is don't use him too early. Use him as bait to keep them moving. Each one of the encounters has its own redeeming quality. I would highly encourage you to use the bats at some point.
The bats are great.
The bats are great at some point, but again, it's kind of a random thing. It can be eliminated if need be. I would highly recommend Stitchy.
Yes.
And the Pond Lurker. And
they have to get there, of course.
Yeah, they got to get there. So that's where they're going to be encountering, like the clot and the bats and stuff like that. Those are the things that are going to kind of run into them as they're running around.
And there's the graveyard.
The graveyard. Here is a chance for you to take stock of where you are in the adventure itself. And that is the mausoleum. It can either be part of the adventure or not part of the adventure. Because if you're really cooking right along and your party's just whacking through things and they're having a great old time, but they're really cutting through things and they're moving fast, then you can extend it by using the mausoleum. When they get to the ghost stone and they draw Adrana out, she can request that they obtain a ring from the mausoleum in order for her to give the information. Totally optional.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be there.
If it's right at the end and they've gotten her drawn out, she could even just say, "Thank you for freeing me."
Right.
What may I do for you? Right. So you got that option to just bring that to the table.
So here's the benefit of flexibility for the game master to draw it out, not draw it out. You take stock of your table, read the table, and go from there.
And remember, just because it's numbered on the map doesn't mean that's where it has to be.
Right.
You're coming down to the end. They haven't found the ghost stone. They don't know where it is. They haven't paid attention to the clues, maybe, or maybe they just had bad luck. Right? Well, guess what? The next encounter area that they go into, that's where it is.
Here it is. That's
yes, magnificent.
Right. Now, one of the things, there's a couple little things that I would like to mention here. First of all, they do mention the Crovenloft mansion, that they will at some point view the mansion.
If you get too close, you're going to view it.
Right, exactly. That's about as close as you want to get right there. So while you do want them to see it, you want them to encounter it, you don't want them to go there. So,
and you can also, the wonderful thing about it, right, is they get a little closer. They can hear screams coming from inside. They can see the bats flying over the rooftops, right?
All
they
the
can see a shadow come across the window of a woman's form.
Howling wolves. Whatever you want to do. Just make it as fun as you want it to. The other thing that they throw in there is kind of a wandering group is the corpse wasps.
Yes, magnificent.
Fun combat.
Well, then, of course, there's this. If everything goes wrong.
If everything goes wrong, Stratanava will come out and kill them. Plain and simple. So, hopefully you won't need to use that
Hopefully
page.
You won't use this. You can just take it. It's a great piece of artwork.
Right.
Put it on the wall. Yes.
Right. So, ultimately, your goal is get to the Ghost Stone, draw out Ardrana. Great role-playing opportunity. If you have time to show her suffering, her conflicts, stuff like that. If you want to make it a little more challenging for the group, you could have the group seek out the key, the ring in the mausoleum.
Yep.
Or just make them work role-playing wise to draw out more information from her.
Because she is a wonderful tragic figure, right? And then of course there's role play at the end when they go back to with Dan the Didactic.
Right, Dan the Didactic. That's how we finish it up.
And the exciting thing about this is it's part 1 of the Crovenloft Estate saga.
Yes.
Which we have 2 more parts coming.
Yes. Yeah, and encourage your group, especially in convention settings where we might have a chance for repeat customers, is to say, this is chapter 1. And if you've enjoyed it, come back. By the time the next convention rolls around, we might have chapter 2 ready to roll. And you have a chance to continue, maybe even play the same character. Read through the module, cover to cover, the adventure book, then get the GM reference book out, go through it again, and by the time you've gone through it again, you're going to pretty much be prepared.
All right, Charles, say goodbye to all those people out there.
Goodbye, all those people out there.
Yes, goodbye, all those people out there. May all your
adventures. See you at the convention.
Yes, we'll see you at the convention. May all your adventures
be sticky.
Ha ha!